Very warm evening to everybody. Hello. Yes. Uh, I think, okay. Uh, we'll start this session. Uh, okay, great. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Shirish Mahendru. I'm technical expert from Smart SCT team. This is a GIZ project. This is in coordination with in we're doing this with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, a central government ministry. And we Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has recently launched one innovative urban data challenge that is called Urban Mobility Innovative Urban Mobility Data Challenge. And in this, we this has been recently launched last month during 9th of November. We the guidelines and the participation categories and the all the candidates or all who all can apply. We have already given all the details on the website. Today we are going for a one workshop session about. Right now, today we are going to start with the one session, which is called as the use of data and tools to restore the public transport ridership. Uh, we have two speakers with us, uh, and I'll be moderating this session. And we have two speakers with us. One is Alok Chan, and second is Shailendra Kaushik. So Alok Jan will be talking about on the topic of the use of data and tools to restore the public transport ridership. So his focus will be on the innovations and the technology-driven solutions, which will help in improving the public transport ridership. Okay, so Alok Jan is a senior expert in public transport and urban transport sector, and he is currently is the managing director of Transconsult Asia, which is in Hong Kong, and he looks after into the projects primarily for the traffic and urban transport projects. And prior to that, he was working with Kowloon Motor Bus Company, Hong Kong, as a deputy operations director. And prior to that, he was also working with MTR Corporation Hong Kong for almost 12 years. So he has a good understanding of all the projects, all the understandings related about the public transport and how the technology and the data can be used to enhance the ridership experience and to enhance the ridership for the public transport sector. The second speaker for the today's session is Shailendra Kaushik. So Shailendra is a transport planner. So he has more than 20 years of experience into urban transport, project financing, and the resilient cities. And he has recently co-founded Cities Forum, the a think tank in 2018. In 2018, it is a global think tank, and it was co-founded in 2018 University of Oxford in UK. And Shailendra is also a technical partner who is supporting NIUA, who is the implementation partner for this data challenge, and GIZ for as a technical support and a technical partner for this. So now I'll hand over to Shailendra Kaushik to he'll set the context for this presentation, and then we can take it forward with Alok Jain. And after that, after small 30 minutes presentation from the Alok Jain, we will have a question and answer session for around 15 minutes. So there we can have a detailed understanding about what if there are any queries about Alok's presentation or inquiries in general about this data challenge. So Shailendra, to you.
Thank you very much, Shirish. Hello, everyone from Dubai. Shirish has actually given the background about this challenge. So just let me also take you through in terms of what we are looking forward as part of this challenge. And so this challenge was launched immediately after the COVID-19 pandemic started. We were working with GIZ and we thought that this is an opportunity to reimagine the transportation system in our city. Though COVID-19 had impacted cities and mobility in a very, very, adverse manner. So public transport is one area which has been affected very badly apart from other areas. So then this challenge was launched in November, and the idea initially was that this challenge will be open to the students and researchers who are working in the field of urban transport and urban mobility to suggest some solutions around the cities, that how cities can improve their transportation system. So when we launched this challenge, we got a lot of inquiries that this challenge should be made wide open for wider participation. And based on the request from number of people, we have launched, or rather, we have restructured the whole challenge. And now this is basically being widely open to everyone. So even if you are a student, you can participate in the student category. If you are working as an employee in any organization but would want to participate as an individual, so you can participate as an individual. Thirdly, if you are an organization or startup, you can participate as an organization or a startup company also. So this challenge is, we are inviting the proposals under three categories as part of this challenge. So one of the category is restoring public transport ridership. The second category is achieving sustainable transport and how to build resilience while planning for the transportation system in our cities. And the third theme is equity in mobility. So this is all an interactive kind of challenge which we have designed. So as part of the whole journey, when the proposals will be conceived, we will be holding lot of workshop, seminars, hand-holding session, mentoring session with the participant. So before right now, the stage is at concept note submission, and what we are doing, we are arranging one international expert who is experienced in the respective field to talk about one of the theme areas. So as I noted that one of the theme is public transportation. So we have invited Mr. Alok Jain, who is an international known expert in the field of public transportation, to speak about that how the data can be used while planning for a resilient public transportation system or restoring the ridership. So this is the first in the three workshop session which we will be holding now. So this is the first one on public transportation. The second one will be around the sustainable transport and resilience, and the third one will be around equity into transportation provision. So these workshop session will give the potential participant in terms of ideas in terms of how to refine their proposals, because you are talking directly to the expert. And we would also invite, after the workshop session, please get in touch with us if you have got any queries, if you want any advice from the expert how to refine your concept proposal, or if you need certain data. So please feel free to get in touch. Follow us on our different social media platform. We have also organized a forum on one of the platform which you can see on our social media. Join that forum, start interacting with other participants. There is a lot of question and answer session which is going on onto that interactive, interactive platform where people are asking questions, they are forming the team, we are guiding them that where to get the data. So this is what all about. I will not take much of the time because the majority of the session we have actually make Alok to speak about public transportation. So with this note, I would welcome Mr. Alok Jain to make a presentation about the theme on public transportation. Thank you. Mr. Alok, please, over to you.
Thank you, Shalendra. So I hope my screen is visible right now. Is it visible?
No, Abhishek, can you help with the screen, please?
Yeah, yeah. Can you share it again? I actually can't see it over here. Try
Okay.
sharing it again. Yeah.
Okay, just one sec. Okay. Can you see?
No, no, no. Give it a try again. If not, can you just refresh the browser? I think that will help.
Sorry, guys, these are the nuisances of the new work from home kind of culture. So that shows that this IT system need to also be reformed in terms of ease of use. So thanks for bearing with us.
I can't share actually from my end. I think it's done from your end.
Okay.
It's blocked from your end. It doesn't allow me to share. Okay. Uh, does it share now?
Yeah, yeah. It is. It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Finally, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Shalendra, and thank you, Shirish, for a great introduction. Uh, okay, we start with talking about data and tools to restore this public transport ridership. So, what I'm going to do is we are going to talk about generally about data, what it does, and how, and I will talk about a real life application that we did in Hong Kong a few years ago, a real case study, and how we managed to use data to transform the business. So, and this before I start, I must say a few words about Smart Move. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the young talent to come give new ideas. We have been industry, and I always say this to my students, that we have been in this industry for far too long, and we become often blinded by a number of issues. Sometimes the bad habits are also become part of our daily life, and that is why a fresh look to some of these aspects is an absolute necessity. And this Smart Move, which is primarily directed towards the students and the youth, I think is a great opportunity to challenge some of the established notions or those bad habits that we have inculcated in absence of technology or in absence of many other new developments or new advancements. And hence this could be quite transformational, and especially setting the context in India. I think we all know in India, we need to get more from less. We need to spend less and get more output out of it, and India has done very well in that segment. And I think this challenge again is possibly taking us in that direction, where we could possibly be able to deliver some of these innovative ideas at a fraction of a cost at what rest of the world does. Okay, to start with, so technological advancements, we have had these three things. So we had sensors and IoTs, this computing power and communication bandwidth. This has really transformed many of the businesses, and one of the fundamental changes it has done on transport business is that it has allowed us to generate more data, process more data, and communicate more data. We are able to transmit it on a real time basis. So combining these three abilities, where we can generate more, process more, and send it, communicate with our back offices, it's a fantastic transformation that brings to the public transport industry. And as you know, in public transport, the assets are moving all over the city. There is no physical way otherwise to monitor these assets if you don't rely on some of these data processes or based technologies. Okay. And data is value. I think this is unchallenged notion. So, and public transport operations are always very data rich. We generate data literally on a constant basis. So a modern bus has about 200 sensors, a modern train has about 2000 sensors, and they are generating data with respect to their location, their driving behavior, how passengers are coming and going, their speed, acceleration, deceleration, braking performance, tilting performance, all kind of things. So there's a huge amount of data literally being generated almost on a second by second basis by these vehicles, which can be then processed at the back end. So you have millions of geolocated events that are happening on a daily basis, millions of ridership transactions that are happening, and every transaction generates a data stream. Millions of equipment diagnostic data that is happening, video recordings, journey requests, all this data that is being generated is, if you can now just you give a pre-thinking to this, what can you do with this? You public transport can generate more data for the city than anything else in the city. You can have every lamp, you can put a sensor, but you won't be get the quality of data that you're getting with public transport. You literally know where people are living, where people are working, where they are, how they are traveling, what modes they are choosing, how much they are paying. All information is available there. Okay. So when we combine this data set, we can actually go and increase revenue, reduce cost, enhance customer experience, and do more with less. I mean, that's the key point here. And you can reduce the energy. We are living in the era of the climate change, where every bit we do is less, generating less emission from the buses or from your vehicles is really adding up to the cities. We can also do a lot of risk management. We can avoid accidents, we can avoid incidents, and all that comes to this, how do you use the data. And fundamentally, the focus needs to change. In the past, we have focused too much on the quantity of service. Buy more buses, get more drivers, increase the services. We have not focused so much on quality of service, and this is something I see all around the world. This is not just India's issue. Even in European countries, you see that there is a lot of quantity based focus, and there's a less quality based focus. And once you have this data, You can do the pre-operations part, which is your planning and demand modeling, and we have been doing this for a long, long time. So this is nothing new, but now the quality of data is better. But the critical part is the operations phase. This is where we used to be handicapped in the past. We literally had people driving the buses without anybody having knowledge where the driver is, what they are doing, whether they're speeding, whether they're driving rash, how the passengers are behaving. If there was a disruption, people were just stranded on the street. Our response times were very low. We could not give any real-time service response. People, when the buses came to the bus stop, they were already full. People couldn't get on the bus. There were a lot of these little frictions that were happening in the services, which we had no way to solve in the past. But now with those real time data that is coming and the data that we can process, we can create a completely new experience, uh, both from an operating perspective or operator's perspective, as well as from customer's perspective. So I'm going to talk about Hong Kong. I do not know how many of you actually know about Hong Kong, but I'll just give you a brief that Hong Kong is a real public transport city. 90% of the daily trips in this city are made by public transport. And there is a whole range of public transport operators here. You have metro systems, buses, trams, ferries, minibuses, funicular railways, LRT. So all kind of things, a whole combination of things that are happening here. But majority of the mode actually is done by railways and these big double-decker franchise buses that, as we call them in Hong Kong. Okay, and that carries roughly about 80% of the total public transport market. So it's a significantly large segment, and they are in. If we talk about a public transport hierarchy, they sit right at the top. So with that kind of a city. And one of the things in Hong Kong, which is also very unique here, that there is zero subsidy for public transport. Every public transport operator has to rely on their own commercial sense to generate enough revenue to sustain themselves. And this is really unique in literally almost in the entire world, where there's no subsidy given, and it's a fully commercial operation. Now, in a commercial operation, when you start to lose money in a public transport operation, what do you do? So, like any commercial operation, you shut down the shop, you go for a new businesses because you are answerable to your shareholders. And we were in a similar situation in this city back in 2012. And 2012, this company called Kowloon Motor Bus, which is the largest public bus operator in Hong Kong. It's a privately held company fully, and it carries roughly about 60% of the bus market, 33% of the overall market. So it's a significantly large player with 4,000 buses, used to carry about 2.7 million people per day in those days. But they were going through a whole problem phase where they were losing money on most of their routes. The costs were going up, the wages were going up, ridership was declining constantly, and the cost structure, as you know, in public transport is relatively inflexible. You still have to pay the salaries for the driver, you still need to maintain the buses, you still need to renew your assets. So all those costs were very inflexible. So in such a scenario, when you were losing money, so these were what was happening to the business. The declining ridership, it was going down constantly. They were losing market share and on a continuous basis since 2008. And of course, if you see, there is a direct impact to the bottom line because of that. So the bus company was in a loss-making position in 2012. And at that time, I was hired there, and I was asked to turn the business around. I came from a total railway background. I had no bus experience at all. So first thing I do was to get into the night school, as they say. So I learned the bus business by becoming a bus driver myself. So I learned bus driving, became a qualified bus driver, and until today I'm a qualified bus driver now. So became a bus driver and started looking at from both bottom at the root level perspective and looking at the higher level perspective. But what the primary thing that we did at that time was to instill the value of a data driven business. Every decision that was made was based on the data that was coming. So all the buses has telematics system, we had the sensors, we had a lot of granular data, every transaction. So 93% of our daily passenger transactions were made on this Octopus card that works in Hong Kong. And I knew Octopus very well because I served on the board of Octopus from 2004 to 2008. So I knew what it could do. So it's a fantastic amount of information that is being generated from Octopus data about passenger patterns. So first and foremost, what we did, that we converted. Everybody talks about journeys. You'd go around the world and you talk to a public transport operator. How many people you carry? They will say we carry 3 million people per day. But it's not 3 million people. It's actually 3 million journeys that they carry. Okay, and passenger and customer journeys and customers are different things. Journeys don't have a face. A customer has a face. So first thing that I did was I started looking at customers as a unique proposition rather than journeys. So even though we were carrying about 2.7 million people, 2.7 million journeys per day, we were only doing we were doing up almost 5.5 million unique customers every month. Okay, so we were actually, our penetration as a bus company was higher than Facebook in Hong Kong. Hong Kong population is only 7.3 million. So only little kids and maybe very old people were not riding the bus, but everyone else was riding the buses. So this was a fantastic revelation. And Hong Kong is, of course, a tourist-friendly city. We were getting almost 12 million unique tourists, unique customers every year. So a lot of tourists were also riding the buses. And then, of course, we had 12,000 staff, then their families. We had 4,000 buses. If you look at the whole coverage, we basically, if I can use that word, we ruled the city. We had the customers, we had the geographical coverage, we had the staff, we had the power, and yet we were losing money. So what we tried to do is we went completely on data driven. We tried to see how, which routes are profit making, which routes are not profit making, which routes are break even, and what are the key characteristics. And often this was a common wisdom in those days, that buses that are running parallel to the train services are loss making services. And we actually found that that was an incorrect supposition. And we proved that. And what we then did, we realized that any bus journey that ran parallel to a railway system which had 12 stations or more and required one interchange, the bus can beat the journey time if you run it an express service. And that revelation was fantastic. And we immediately started reallocating some of the assets on those kind of services. And started gaining market share. We also started looking at every single departure. Literally, I'm talking about every single departure of the bus, and started questioning whether there is a value in running those things. So it was a totally data based approach. No assumptions, no assumptions were entertained. If you knew the business for 30 years, it didn't matter if you could not bring data to the table. Okay, we started looking at reliability issues, bus bunching issues. And this is in 2012, with the technology, various technologies were still evolving. Of course, in last 8 years things have changed a lot, but we started working with the data, as you can see. And once we started solving some of these bunching issues, reliability issues, we started getting great feedback from customers, that they now realize, people said they don't mind the bus to be slower as long as it is more predictable. And then we started changing the focus in running the buses one after the other, to making sure that they adhere to a proper schedule. So schedule adherence, arrival time adherence, those things became one of our key journey time issues. Most of the places, because you want to save your drivers, you want to save your buses, you people schedule their buses too tight, and assuming that everything will work perfectly. But as we know, the buses are subjected to a lot of aberrations on the road. There are traffic congestion and whatnot. Under those circumstances, we said no, our focus should be 95% reliability. So we took the journey time back into the system, and we made sure that the 90 to 95% of the bus departures arrived their destination within the reasonable accuracy. And then we work backwards. Of course, it required more buses, more drivers, and we said that's okay, but we want to give a reliable service, because that's what the customers are looking for. They don't mind 5 minutes delay, but they want to be arriving on time. They don't want to miss their bus. They don't like whether the bus is early someday or late another day. Then we started to look at clock phase frequency, especially for buses which were running at a frequency lower than headway lower than 12 minutes. So we said there'll be no 13-minute, no 14-minute, no 17, 18. This headways we will not run at all. So we will only run after 12. We will run 15, 20, 30, so that every hour there is a pattern. We can stick to the pattern. The pattern doesn't change. Make it more easy for people to remember these services and these experiments. And again, these are some of the experiments we were doing constantly, getting the data back and then revising our schedules. And some of the successful ones was, this was one route where we changed the schedule from a very erratic, which would change every literally every 2 hours of the day, to make it a very clock face frequency. We reduced the services. We actually reduced the number of buses on that route, and still we saw an increase in ridership. And this was just one example. A lot of those we saw where people loved this clock face frequency. My mother, who lives here with me, she loved this clock face frequency because, any time of the day, if she was going out, she knew exactly when the bus was about to leave, and she would leave the house exactly 5 minutes before that. So there was no queuing at the bus stop, no, unnecessary, those aberrations, those unreliable issues at the bus stop. Okay. We started this whole hub and spoke concept. Now, of course, this concept is everybody talks about in the school, and but it is very difficult to create in real life. Okay. So what we started to do, we started to engage the community. We started to work with the frequencies. We canceled a number of routes, and we created this hub and spoke system. So all the bus routes, let's say from one district, they converge to one point before going out into the urban area into different destinations. And we created a new bus to bus interchange platform. And that bus to bus interchange platform was designed very similar to a big bus depot where we had platform number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each platform were defined based on their destination further. So let's say if there were 5 routes coming to one place and then they were all going in one direction, these 5 routes would call onto one bus stop or one bus platform. So you could just take any first bus that was coming to this interchange, then you walk over to that platform and you can be on your destination on the first bus. That actually reduced the journey time significantly for people. And of course, quality of interchange matters a lot. So we created a whole new type of interchange where we created a decent infrastructure, decent signage, television, wi-fi. So we created a lot of amenities around this interchange. So this became like a hub, real bus hub that was operating in that area. Then we also optimized a lot of routings and the timetables to create a more reliable service. As I said, worked on the schedule adherence, start time adherence, service regularity. We also reduced the lost trips where sometimes, as I said, if you go to 90-95% reliability, you don't have as many lost trips because all your buses are arriving on time, which means they can easily get into the next trip. If you schedule them too tight and the bus is late, and then because if the buses are very frequent and they're running behind schedule, uh, the, there is no other option but for you to just cancel a trip because it just doesn't fit in, it just arrived too late. So all those data driven approach, as you can see, we were constantly monitoring them on a statistical platform. We actually installed a whole data analytics platform from SAP, and we were running a lot of these data models and statistical models at the back end. You do a good work, and if you don't tell your customers and if you don't pass the value to your customers, you are doomed. So back in 2014, we also started working on our mobile app, and 2015 we were the top 10 app in Hong Kong for constantly for 12 months. At a point we were actually competing with Facebook on a ranking space on the Play Store as well as iPhone store. So, and this worked very well. So we created a lot of new touch points. We put ETAs. We had connections with social media, and this app is still there, and anybody can see. But it evolved into a whole, and now it's also doing e-commerce. You can buy souvenirs, you can buy bus models, you can buy a lot of, and there are credit cards now around the bus services. So there's a bus credit card. There are a lot of other things which we did as a part of non-fare revenue riding on this app. App also is supported by a lot of advertising. A lot of advertisers are big; they pay big bucks to be on this app because it is utilized, very well utilized app. So we in Hong Kong, we had roughly in a city of 7.3 million, we have approximately 4.5 million downloads, and we get about 300,000 hits a day. So it's a very popular app. So we started putting a lot of this delivery of bus information on a real time basis because we were getting all this real time data, we were processing it, and we were putting it on a real time basis. We even provided information on which bus has a wheelchair space, which bus has seats, which bus is loaded how much. So all that information started consolidating and putting up this in this app, which customers love to use. And when you do all these things, and so front end was improved, back end was improved. At the back end level, as you can see, we were reducing some of the what we call the non-essential departures, and we were cutting a lot of dead mileage. We were doing interlining, intertiming. Uh, Drivers were doing bus hopping, route hopping. So a lot of these new terms we started to introduce, and our aim was to optimize the bus services and the driving workflows in such a way where the drivers get more time for rest and the vehicles run less on the road, and yet we provide a better quality of service. So between 2012 to 2015, we reduced approximately 7.3 percentage of mileage. And in annual terms, that translated to about 22 million bus kilometers in Hong Kong. So just from an emission perspective, you can see we significantly reduced the tailpipe emission of the buses just by using a lot of data-driven approach, data-driven decision making. We also, at the same time as we are providing better services, more reliable services, we saw a big increase in ridership. So it's a 3.2% increase in ridership. And on a net basis, the efficiency went up by 11%. So 11% increase in efficiency for a bus operation is really transformational for bottom line. Okay, so this really translated back into increase in ridership. As we can see, we constantly had an increase in ridership after that, and we obviously were operating less and less kilometers. So we were helping reduce the congestion, we were helping reduce the emission, but at the same time providing a better quality service, and that goes back into your bottom line. And right after that, from 2014, 2013, we started, and after 2014 we went back into profitability, so much so that in 2016 the company made record profit in its history. And in Hong Kong we have a profit cap mechanism, and which is 9.7, which used to be 9.7% in those days. A bus company cannot make more than 9.7% of average net fixed assets, and we made more than 9.5%, which means we had to actually give money back to the customers or the government into the system. Okay, so this, it was a whole journey that was a totally data driven journey. We were doing a lot of statistical analysis. Every decision that was made was based on data. We also did a lot of work on the maintenance side. You introduced predictive maintenance. We started looking at how much spare parts we have, our spare part strategy, obsolescence strategy, uh, and maintenance strategy. Everything was becoming data driven. So I have not shown all the data here, but I'll be happy to share if anybody is interested to get more. Our engineering reliability, mechanical reliability, everything went up during this transformation, during this change that we were undertaking. So any bus company, I know every bus company, a lot of bus companies because of COVID are in trouble. A lot of public transport companies are in trouble. They should, and they think that they're going into vicious cycle. But I also feel that this is also an opportunity to create that virtuous cycle by improving the services, by looking at the pain points of the customers, and really putting your assets in the right way onto the road. So once you have a good service, you will have a high concentration of passenger, then you'll get more loading on the bus, you get higher revenue, you will buy more buses, which will become even more attractive to passengers. And that's the virtuous cycle that you need to create. And once you use a data-driven approach, you can really increase the quality of service and reduce the cost. Thankfully, I mean, I know COVID-19 had been very, very bad for a lot of people around the world. It has a lot of people, businesses, employees have suffered, but it has really given that thirst to the digital transformation in public transport industry all over the world, and a lot of things are changing in a lot of cities. And again, in the context of your smart move, there is a whole menu of things that are being done around the world. You are looking at people giving more priority to public transport. There is a push towards active mobility. London, Paris, a whole of Europe is talking about bicycles and walking. A lot of emphasis on shared mobility, on-demand buses, or demand-responsive transit, as we call them. So there's a lot of new services that are appearing all over the world. There's a whole movement towards electric buses and electric vehicles. Mobility as a service is the new buzzword in most of the places, where all the transport operators, the entire mobility solution is provided on a single platform as a single touch point to the customer, where you can pick and choose. It's like a shopping mall for customers, for as far as the transport services are concerned. Road space are being redefined. New York, California, LA, London, everywhere, Paris, everywhere you can see the introduction of no car zones. There are more cycle lanes are coming, more bus lanes are coming. Urban living is being redefined. In Paris, they have introduced this 15-minute city concept where you live, work in the same area. Road pricing is being used to fund public transport. In fact, in UK, some of the people are even discussing to introduce a countrywide road pricing at the moment to fund public transport. Enforcement has improved a lot for illegal parking, especially, and again, a lot of this is possible because of new technologies that are available, which are all driven by data at the back end. And when you have so much data at the back end, of course, we are able to deliver that citizen centricity. We are opening this data to people, opening this data to developers, the app developers, the students like you participating in Smart Move. And that data, then you can utilize to create completely transformational solutions for public transport. And then, of course, there are a lot of move towards artificial intelligence, machine learning, and those are coming through these autonomous driving, which is the buzzword at the moment. We were very bullish about autonomous driving until 5 years ago. I'm involved with a number of projects on this one, but I can tell you the bad news is that this is not coming anytime soon. It is going to take some time. It's more complex. It is more difficult than we had imagined it to be. So it will take more time, but eventually it will come. It'll just be a far away, So we will have in controlled environment, the problem is already solved. I think the problem is we cannot go to the level 5, which is what the ultimate objective is. Technology is one thing which I always warn people. You can buy technology, but that doesn't mean you have the answer. Technology is not like something that spit out the right answers. You can't just plug something in and think that your job is done. And this is something that I have done. I have seen a lot of places in India where a lot of new technology is being purchased. ITS is the buzzword, intelligent transport system. Everybody is going for contactless ticketing. Everybody is talking about telematics, getting the data at the back end. But that doesn't make systems better, believe me, unless you use this data wisely. There needs to be KPIs, there needs to be monitoring systems on how these are being used to deliver efficiency from the previous. So unless we change the modus operandi of how this technology is deployed, and we can't really transform the business. So when we are talking about change, what needs changing most at the moment is not the technology. Technology you can just buy off shelf. It's a matter of money, and you can develop very easily. What you need to do is to change the mindset. So my recommendation to all of you who are participating in Smart Move is to think about the mindset. Think about how end of the day the customers are going to use it. Make it dummy proof, make it easy to use. Very high tech stuff, very complex stuff is not really what people want at the front end. It really doesn't work. If I have to, I always say this to app designers, that if I have to click three more than three times to find the information that I need, the app is useless for me. So it has to be that nice. The touch points have to be very good, and only then ultimately you will deliver the results. So with that, I will end my presentation. You feel free to type your questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alok. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and the wonderful insights we had from you from the Colin Motor Bus Company, and it was a fantastic turnaround. And you rightly said, and the PT operations are very data rich, and how you use this data to transform the complete scenario is very important. You also highlighted about the use of the data through perspectives of operators perspective, through management perspective, and through the user perspective. That was also very important. That is also very important because everybody should have the total understanding, and we should able to give the right justice to the every stakeholder. So thank you so much. And Alok, if I would like to ask, you already highlighted about since there are another you completed well on time. There's still 3 minutes, and I would ask all the participants if they have any question, please start writing on the chat box, and all related to the presentation which Alok given, and or to the related general queries about, if any, to this data challenge which has not been addressed so far, which you think is important, and you need an insight to it, let us know through the chat box. I just would like to understand. I actually had 2 3 queries, and you have almost explained all of them. And I would just like to ask, since there is a COVID impact already, and you have been a promoter of the using a more public transport during the COVID, I've seen your Twitter and tweets about use the mask but use the public transport. So what exactly this if you ask that in Hong Kong, what exactly are the measures they have taken during this COVID-19 before after lockdown, and what all resulted in either there's an increase in the ridership from since the lockdown, or what actually happened, what they just tried to restore the ridership.
Okay.
I've seen one of your presentation. I think you have said that the ridership is improving now. But what
Yeah.
are all exact measures which they're taking right now? Thank
So
you.
a few things which I would like to mention here. Am I audible? Yeah. So there are a few things that I would like to mention here. So one thing is that we in whatever state of lockdown, there was never a public transport lockdown in this city. We never stopped running buses and trains in the city. I use bus and train every single day, and I go to office and I use them without fear. And but what is certainly happening even from February is that there is almost 100% masking. Everybody is wearing a mask, and everybody is sanitizing their hands. Every so hygiene levels have gone up. Even at the public transport level, the fundamental emphasis that has gone up is on hygiene side. So I'm working currently on some robots, disinfectant robots. So we can have robots just go into the buses and trains, disinfect the entire bus and train, and then come out. So you don't have even human exposure to chemicals, harmful chemicals. And we work with a number of epidemiologists, pharmacologists, and bacteriologists, and we try to come up with a robotic solution. So first thing, when we had these robots, we designed version 1 for public transport, and now of course a lot of other people have come and said, can we use it in other environments? So the developers are developing and converting the same robot for hotels, for buildings, and all the other things. So it's a great venture. If anybody, again, you want to know more about this product, I think I posted some of the stuff, but I'll be happy to share that material. But the idea was totally focused towards disinfecting services. We never had any fare reduction. We didn't do so. Government here helped the bus companies and the train companies with some financial incentives for the COVID period. But apart from that, nothing very much actually. So as I always say, we didn't do much, and that worked really well for us because the services were still there. People considered they were always available, and people were still using it. So even though we at one point we were 40-50% down, we came back very quickly, and now we are at 70-80% level of the original ridership, and that is primarily because we don't have the tourists. Hong Kong is again a city of 7 million people. We used to get 52 million tourists per annum, and they are now almost zero. Yeah.
Thank you, Alok. We have questions have started coming up. So,
Sure.
but before going to questions, Shailendra, do you have anything to say or to ask Alok, or you want to highlight something?
No, it was Alok, really insightful presentation, and through the presentation, you have given a lot of data point to our potential participant in terms of what they are looking forward. So my question to you would be like in case of COVID-19, now all public transport agency majority they are suffering. So what are the likely technology advancement changes you as a professional working in public transport you see which would emerge in the near future?
So I'm seeing a lot of now. I think the data issue is more or less resolved. So as I said, the three parts of data: data generation, data processing, and data transferring. These three part is pretty much resolved. I think we are going to make them better with 5G coming. The data transmitting is going to get even better. But with the focus of the industry now, and in fact my a lot of my research is going into that area, is to actually make this data even better. So instead of going and relying a lot of on a manual effort, we are going for machine learning and artificial intelligence driven approaches. So in 2018 I did this big report for UITP on use of artificial intelligence in public transport. And again, if anybody wants that report, drop me a line and I'll be happy to share that report with you. But that report actually looks at how these new technologies can be applied in a public transport environment, and what are the key areas where we can get the benefits out of it. And I think that those areas are really where the lot of research needs to be done. This is still a very, I would say, a nascent topic for us to look into, but the opportunities are just immense. You know, if I can tell, yeah, and I look forward to a world where when my bus leaves the depot, I should be able to tell at what bus stop how many people would be waiting, given the environment, given the weather, given the time of the day, the season at that time, the temperature, whether it's a school holiday, whether it's an exam season, and accurately predict to every single these pointers, these variables that affect your ridership. And if you can deploy your assets based on those kind of information, that would be an ideal situation for you to be in. And because we are always very time sensitive, it's a time sensitive business, and AI and machine learning allow us to overcome some of the challenges in the data, which currently, if we start to do manual work, we are not able to solve.
Okay, thanks. And I also understand you are working quite closely with a lot of public transport authorities within India, and these are all big transport companies to small transport companies. So, what are the five key challenges, if you would want to, I would request you to summarize, which would basically help our potential participant that though they know, but it is coming from an expert who's actually working on a day-to-day basis with lot of PTAs in India.
Correct. So I think in India, so there is, as I said in my presentation, there is no dearth of technology. It's very easy. A lot of these things are off the shelf products. You can just buy it off from anyone. It's the mindset. We need to change the processes. We need to even ask, do I need six layers of people? And some of the simple challenges that I would throw is that how many people you need to run a bus service. I mean, if you drivers, yes, you need, and there are shifts there, but to maintain the services, how many technical maintenance staff you need per bus to run a successful operation. I can tell you in Hong Kong, we ran buses up to 17, 18 years. So the bus life was very long for us. And even at that level, we were delivering 94, 95% availability of the fleet. And we only had 0.25% per bus from a maintenance perspective. So one person had four buses to maintain, and we could deliver these buses, the services, uh, at the highest of the standards, and with 17 years of bus life. So it's all can be done, but it's just a matter of how you change your regime, how you update your processes, how much you rely on automation. And automation, when I say, it's not just about robots and stuff. I think there's a lot of automation just in the way how your processes flow, how your data flows within the company.
Okay, thank you. We have got a series of questions coming around. So, Shirish, if you can take some questions which are
Yes. Yes, Shailendra, I'll start with one question from Aditi. Just a second. Yes, there's one question is from Aditi. Did you use open and Alok, this is for you. Did you use open source APIs codes to implement this solution in the short term?
So we had a, okay, at that time when you say open source API, we literally worked our way up. So we created the APIs. We actually had a lot of data within the company, and we transformed it into API formats. We went into real time operation management. We also got a lot of data feeds from public sources, secondary data which were related primarily to traffic information, weather information, some of the public events information, and all those data was were available in API format in government's open data site in Hong Kong, and we could feed that into our system, and then we created this whole data cubes and algorithms around it.
Thank you. There was one more question. Yes. What do you think? What do you think are the key differentiating points of Indian public transport system with respect to Hong Kong's system? Alok, this is for you.
Yeah. So, well, there are a lot of differences. One big difference is that this bottom line driven approach. In Hong Kong, we basically, every penny counts for us. Every liter of diesel matters. So we are very focused towards efficiency and productivity of public transport system. And unfortunately, I don't see that drive in India. I see a lot of wastage, if you like, both in terms of mileage, staff hours. You see people hanging around, a lot of people hanging around in the depots and stuff. Those things don't happen here. Here, it's a very productivity driven operation. And but there is no reason why India can't do this. And currently, my work with the STUs is actually involving in some of these modernization work where we are not trying to bring rocket science into these companies, but we are trying to bring common sense into the companies.
Uh, the,
I can't see your
your,
phone. Yeah.
actually, there's some problems, but yes, you can proceed.
So any other question?
Now we have questions related to data challenge, and I'll read few questions now. Just a second. There's some problems coming.
I'm seeing
Will
some.
the Yes,
I can answer if you're okay. I will just read them out.
yes,
So
I can read one question now. Yes, Shailendra, if you can, and I'll support you in that. Will the data sets be available in advance or after the concept note submission stage?
Uh,
Uh, sh- uh,
Yeah, thanks, Shirish, for this question. So we already started populating the data set on the data space platform. So you can go and look into the data set available, and as and when the Smart Move challenge progresses, we will further up populate the data sets available. So at the concept node stage, you don't not really need to look into the data set, but if you look into the data set, that is also fine. So you can request if there is some data set available within you yourself which you would want to use as part of your proposal. Feel free to do that. List that in the concept note submission. If your solution is centered around something innovative and you need the data set, you can request the data set, as part of your concept note submission. So while we evaluate the concept note, we will look into all these aspects. So some of the data which we have got, because we are doing a lot of take validation before we put the data onto the data space platform. So some data is already available, and so to answer your question, at the concept node stage, if you want to refer the data, refer the data. Otherwise, that is not necessary. But your solution, what you give as part of your final proposal, should be centered around the data which is available onto the data portal or available within your team.
Thank you, Shailendra. There's another question. What exactly are the participants supposed to do in Smart Move? Do we first design and innovate public transport model and then start using datasets made available by the public transport utility, or vice versa?
Yeah. See, if you go to if you go to Smart Move website, we have a guideline document. So read it thoroughly. So the whole challenge is divided into three parts. So first is the concept note stage. So at this stage, if you have an idea around one of the theme which is listed in the Smart Move challenge, which you feel will transform the Indian mobility sector, which is scalable, replicable, feasible. So suggest that idea as part of concept note submission. So you don't need to submit any solution as part of the concept note. It is just a simple write up of 3 or 4 pages which we've given through a structured question. So you submit your answer onto those structured questions, submit it. So once you submit the concept note, so through an international panel of experts, which include academicians, practitioners, and other professionals, we will evaluate the proposal and shortlist the concept note which fits into the criteria of Smart Move Data Challenge. So those concept note which are shortlisted in this next stage, then the second stage of the Smart Move Challenge comes in, where we will do the matchmaking of your concept with the participating cities, because cities are providing the data. For example, if you have some solution around passenger information system and there is one city which is looking after some passenger information system solution, so we will do a matchmaking event. And also, while you develop from your concept to the actual solution, kind of proposal, so there will be a lot of mentoring sessions. So we have planned some 3 mentoring sessions. So the expert who are working into this respective area, we are forming a team. So these experts will work with the shortlisted team and help them in developing the solution note. So as part of the final submission, you will then submit your final solution, which could be, in the form of actual deliverable solution. Or so there is no hard and fast rule in terms of what you are submitting, but what we need as part of the Smart Move, some solutions around 3 themes which are easily implementable, replicable, and scalable into Indian cities. And then out of those solutions, we will shortlist, and then there will be 3 or I think 5 winners which would be announced. And these 3 or 5 team would then work with the Smart Cities mission outside the challenge, that how these solution could be commercially implemented into different cities. So that is the whole idea. So this whole journey we started in November, and we are actually right from November until next 5 or 6 months. We are looking at the final concept note, not the concept note, but the final proposal submission. So by March or April, and we have planned similar kind of knowledge sharing event during the whole course of event. So the interaction is also very key. So I again say that follow us on our social media page. If you have got any question, feel free to get in touch. We have panel of experts who will answer your question. We have the technical team who will answer your question. We have other experts who will handhold you in terms of developing your solutions.
Thank you, Shailendra. So there are also questions with us, like about the concept note submission deadline date, and if there's any format for the public transport, the concept note submission. Yes, there is a format, and we have already shared all the. Please go through the website and the general FAQ session. Most of the queries would be clear to you. There are continuous questions also coming for Alok to you. So we'll take 2 questions now, and we'll try to answer most of the questions which left unanswered. We will try to answer through the email, or we'll try to send the general answers to all the questions in the separate emails. So one question, Alok, to you is, what kind of IoT hardware was installed in the buses
Uh,
that you just mentioned about?
okay, most of the modern buses now are they have a CAN bus system, and this CAN bus system means that there's a IT backbone in the bus where all the different parts of different subsystems of the buses, they plug into this IT backbone, the CAN system, and then put this data into a hub. And what we do is we put a telematics device on this, which accesses the hub pulls the data and then transmit it to the back end. So you need a GSM enabled device that can put it back. So that was a primary backbone of our vehicle related information. And if the buses have cameras, you can bring in the recordings of events and incidents at the back end. Then we also have a ticketing system, a device that does all the transactions for electronic ticketing, and that can also be linked to this telematics system, and the data can be brought back. So basically, on the bus, you have these systems which are working, and some of these now. So this was the old style. Now we are also working on IoT, Internet of Transport. So we are trying to make a bus, put edge computing onto the buses. So where decision making is not done at the OCC level, at the Operation Control Center level, but can be done directly on the buses. So if you enable some of these algorithms using machine learning, and you combine what you see using CCTV, what you get data that you're getting on the bus from a vehicle health system, and if you know who the driver is, what is their risk profile, how long they have been driving, and if you know how many passengers there are, you don't need nothing else. You can really, the bus can be an intelligent bus. And this is the next level where we are trying to move to, where we will have basically a computer moving around in the city, carrying people and making decisions as it goes. So this will be the truly connected system.
Thank you, Alok. We have a last question for you. Actually, we already touched 7 Indian as per Indian Standard Time. Then, are the public transport system in Hong Kong is privatized, and this could make a huge difference based on the profit-driven approach. What was your experience?
So yes, I mean privatization helps because it drives profit. But having said that, in my opinion, privatization is not the only way to operate buses. Singapore is a non-private operation of buses, and yet it does very well too. There are a lot of other good examples around the world where it's a publicly operated system, and yet it operates very well. So I don't think that is the reason, but having said that, even if you have a publicly operated operation, you need to use that mindset of efficiency and performance that a private company often drives you to do, and that mindset is needed to be changed within public operation. So a good public operation, and India has a couple of examples where good leadership and good STUs, they have actually implemented some of these good examples. I mean, one work that we did with Ridership, you probably know, with GIZ at Bhubaneswar in Odisha. That was fantastic. They are doing great work. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but they are on the right path. They are doing all the right stuff, and the numbers that you see there. Last I remember, they were carrying about more than a lakh passenger per day on 189 buses. These are amazing numbers. I mean, if you see, for any city to in India or any bus company around the world to have that level of ridership. And I think this was all good efforts that is being put by the staff and the leadership in the company. We can't hear you.
Audible now?
Yes.
Okay, I said thank you, and we have already touched seven as well. And thank you, Alok. Thank you so much for the presentation, the wonderful insights, and we are really impressed to see this fantastic turnaround happen in 2014, 2012 to 2014, 15, and the numbers were really great. And thank you so much. And I would also like to thank Shalendra for continuously supporting us and answering to the most of the queries related to data challenge. Thank you so much, Shalendra. And I would also like to thank all the backend team who are continuously working to make this complete workshop successful. Thank you so much, and thank you NIUA being the wonderful implementation partner. GIZ is a supporting and partner, and then uh, Cities Forum as a technical partner for this. So thank you all. Thank you all the participants. We
Thank,
look forward to hear from you.
Thank you,
thank you,
Sharice, and thank you,
Alok.
Shalendra.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.